So, you want to learn how to listen to your intuition in relationships. Maybe you're somebody who's dating and trying to find your person. Maybe you're already in an LTR, long-term relationship, and you're wondering, is this person right for me? Or maybe you're just thinking about your friendships or even things in your family and wanting to know, what is my head? What's my anxiety? What's my overthinking versus what's my intuition? Well, this video is for you. I'm gonna share with you 4 tools to help sharpen your intuition and to help you really differentiate between anxiety, overthinking, feeling, and true intuitive guidance. So, hi, I'm Sonia. I'm a 4th generation intuitive, author, guide. I have been working with people one-on-one doing intuitive readings and mentoring for over a decade. And one of the most popular questions that I get asked in my soul readings, one of the topics that we cover again and again in my mentoring, is relationships. So let's talk about it. How do we know what is anxiety? How do we know what's wishful thinking? How do we know between these two? Well, first of all, let's talk about why intuition is so important in relationship. See, intuition is your innate divine GPS system, and it's the voice of your spirit. And what I mean by spirit is that's your innate divine self. It's the part of you that's not your head, it's not your personality, it's not your job. It is the essence of you. And the beautiful thing about your intuition is what picks up on and speaks in vibration. It doesn't use words, it doesn't use linear information. It works in resonance because the whole world is resonance, the whole universe is resonance. And what we do again and again in relationships is we abandon our intuition in order to try and make things fit. We end up being in fantasy in one way or another instead of grounded in reality because we don't want to be disappointed or hopeful, or we don't want to ask too much. There's a whole wide range of emotions of why we abandon ourselves in relationship. So first, I want to tell you a story about one of my clients who I talked to, who I mentored with for a really long time, and her greatest desire was to be in a relationship. And so she would go on all these different Tinder dates and she would meet these different guys, and again, she kept meeting these really successful, handsome dudes who wound up being emotionally unavailable over and over and over again. They would sleep with her, they would go on these different dates, and then they'd end up ghosting her. And then she would end up texting them and feeling needy and overwhelmed, and she's like, what is going on? She is a wonderful woman, total badass, total babe, super smart, had the whole package going, but she couldn't find a partner and she was exhausted. And so when I first started talking to her, I asked her, I said, what do you want more than anything? She said, I really want a relationship. I really want partnership, but I keep dating these duds. And I asked her, I said, why is that? She's like, well, I keep meeting these guys and they seem nice and they have everything they have on paper, but I end up in these situations where I'm just trying way too hard. And so the very first thing that I said was, when our intuition works and it speaks to us in vibration. And in order to do that, we have to slow down enough to even access our feeling bodies. What eclipses our intuition and what makes us dismiss our red flags, like very serious red flags, are 2 different things. 1, feelings, and that includes fears. Fear of being alone, fear of not finding your person, fear of not being good enough, fear of not being lovable, fear of asking for too much. There's a lot of different F words that come up when it comes into relationships. And the other thing that we can also check in is with our intellect. And our intellect is the part that wants to figure things out. It's where we talk ourselves out of our intuitive hits. Like, for example, one of the guys that she kept dating, she went on a nice date with, went on a second date with, they hooked up, and then all of a sudden he ghosted her. And so she was texting and writing and trying to connect with him and trying to communicate. And when I got on the phone with her, she's like, oh, I bet he's just busy. And I was like, but does that feel true? Is that true? And she tuned in her intuition and she was like, no, it isn't. I'm giving him a lot of different excuses. And then I asked the second question of, how often do you do that in all of your relationships? How much do you overgive to other people and give the benefit of the doubt to the point where it's harmful to you? So when we can actually connect with our intuition, what we're actually doing is moving out of fantasy. And out of fantasy, because sometimes it's our inner child fantasies, sometimes it's our fantasy of what it means to be in a relationship, fantasy of the happily ever after. And that can blind us to what's actually in present time. What is true? How is this person behaving? How is this person showing up? Do their words and their vibration match? Somebody says they're going to call you. Do they call you? Do they prioritize you? Are they interested? These are very good grounded tools that help us to come back into the present moment. And when we get into that feeling, which is one of those things that causes us to doubt ourselves and our intuition, by fears, what we can do is start to come back by recognizing that our fears are just ways that they're trying to protect us. Our feelings, whether it's giving people a lot of credit and not being that grounded, or even another one of not having good enough standards, having very low standards for anybody who kind of shows up and walks in the door and saying, good enough. Fear, when our feelings are trying to protect us. And what they're trying to do is, though, they only have a certain amount of information. And so that's where we can actually start to come back to our own deeper sense of self and start to really recognize that we can get clear on what it is that we want. What do you want from your relationships? Clear communication, good boundaries? Do you want, do you want dates? What do you want? Let's even start there. What are the things that you want in your relationship? And then practice being direct. Intuition is honesty, and in being direct and communicating directly, you set yourself up for success. The number one enemy of your intuition is being nice. And I mean being nice. Overly giving to others, overly accommodating, overly X, Y, or Z, it will not serve you. And this is exactly what she was doing. So she stopped being nice and actually started to weed away all the not so great, there's a term, fuck boys and girls, and now to what she actually wanted. She met a new guy. She was super direct with what he wanted, what she was available to. They had great communication. Now they're dating and moving in together. So be direct. Don't be afraid to ask for what it is that you want. Listen to your intuition. Second of all, pay attention to your body. Your body is where your intuition resides, and it speaks to you not in words, but in vibration. So if something feels off, it is. Don't ask your intellect to figure it out, because you're picking up on something that's underneath the surface. Somebody's words and vibration, you don't have to go chase after them. You don't have to play detective, but trust that your innate spirit is protecting you, is telling you something, and honor that. The more that you honor that as true, by not gaslighting yourself, the better your intuition will work in relationships. When we listen to our bodies, I remember a long time ago when I was young, I had a boyfriend for many years, and deep down, I knew he was not a match. But I tried again and again and again, because I figured if I worked hard enough, we would figure it out. If we just X, Y, or Z. But you know what? When I got quiet and when I got underneath the noise and my own fear of being alone, what I found was it wasn't a match. We were not a fit. And so being aware of sometimes what our own blind spots are, which brings me to point number 3. If you're in a relationship that doesn't really serve you, or you find yourself in a pattern again and again that doesn't work, how does your blind spot serve you? How does your blind spot serve you? And what I mean by that, for example, for me with my old partner when I was young, how it served me was it kept me away from being alone. My fear of being alone, my fear of being unlovable, my fear of never finding somebody else. And by ignoring my intuition, he served this purpose of good enough. But until I really honored that and said, you know what, this isn't good enough, because I know in this minute, tiny place, this isn't true, this isn't working, and I can be courageous enough to do something different. We broke up. I have a way better for both of us. Let's just put it that way. Listening to your intuition takes courage, and that also means communicating. Back to my other point of being clear. Point number 3, what I was talking about earlier. Using your intuition, pay attention to your feelings. Feeling and intuition are 2 different things. They resonate in your body differently, they show up differently, and feelings are like a wave. It can be overwhelming, it can overwhelm you. And so feelings also oftentimes fears or anxieties, and they aren't grounded, and we can feel them in our bodies because they come in and out like waves. Intuition is sustained vibration. It's like a drum beat that keeps showing up. It doesn't change, it's not verbose, it doesn't talk a lot, it's not fancy, but it will tell you, it'll let you know. Feelings come in, oh my gosh, what if X, Y, or Z? Which reminds me of another client that I had who was dating this guy and had a lot of her own fears or anxieties around what it was to be in a relationship. So she started dating this guy and kept questioning whether or not he was dating other women. And her fears around whether or not he was emotionally available, because you know what the truth of the matter is, she wasn't that emotionally available, ended up actually having to hurt his feelings and needing to take some space. Her fear presented as reality, but it wasn't. Feelings aren't facts, they're feelings. They give us good information. So if you're somebody who gets overwhelmed in feelings a lot, what is it telling you? Where is it telling you that you have a wound? Maybe it's an inner child wound. Maybe it's a place of having to renegotiate what it means to be in a relationship. Maybe it's a place that's telling you something that needs nurturing and good information. That's actually where our intellect can be a good tool to help us get clear, have some clarity. What are your boundaries? What kind of relationships? What has been modeled to you? And where do you not show up and abandon yourself? And when we come in, we'll be grounded in reality. That means what is true now. Not what do we want the fantasy to be. For example, if you're in a relationship or if you're dating or even in friendships, if you're like, one day we will X, Y, or Z and everything will be good. Nope, that is fantasy. Just like I was talking about my ex, what I was doing. I wasn't grounded in reality. I kept giving way too much credit. I kept showing up way too much. I was in this one day it will. But the question is, what is it now? Because when we can come back to the present moment of now, that's when we can make decisions that actually support us. So if you're in a relationship that's struggling, and being clear, that's where we can actually maybe get better support, have better communication, go to therapy, work on our own shit, have our partners work on shit. These are really important tools. And last but not least, and maybe the most important, nurture your relationship with yourself, with your spirit. The more that you are loving to yourself, the more that you tend to yourself, the more that you make promises that you follow through on, the more that you fill these different holes. And I'm not saying you have to be whole or healed. Please don't confuse what I'm saying. But the more that we can work on that place, the more that we can ask for more from the people in our lives and have more to give. It's a really beautiful way that we can weed out the riffraff. Because when we don't practice our own self-value, and even through our own intuition, what we do is we look for other people to fill our holes. And relationships, you have to work on your own wholeness, 2 holes coming together. No one will ever complete you, not your twin flame, not X, Y, or Z. So in using your intuition, it can also be a really beautiful place to uncover what your hidden blind spots are, different patterns. It can be a way that we can look even into your family, patterns in history, how relationships were modeled to you. And that can be a way where you can tend to nurture yourself with your spirit and be self-loving, self-centered, centered in self. And that will help really blossom all of your relationships. Don't settle just because you're afraid. Because the truth is that will never feel good. There will be no random place. And relationships are messy. So we have to work on them. And accepting people for who they are and what our different problems are, and recognizing that not all conflicts will be resolvable. We can learn and grow and change and do that together and do the work together. And that is the real blessing of using not only your intuition, but your spirit in relationship and having a conscious relationship. So don't ignore your red flags. Don't not pay attention to your body. Recognize that emotions aren't facts. Nurture yourself, your spirit, and be okay to walk away, because the universe has something better than you could even imagine. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's longer than I anticipated, but I also had a lot to say. So if you need help, maybe want to book a soul reading with me, uncover some different blind spots, and I can help you. Or not even more, check out my website, soniatele.com. I also have a free spiritual toolkit to help you better connect with your own spirit, develop your own intuition with a guided meditation. I have tons of free resources and tools. Check out my family podcast, it's all related. I have tons of stuff for you, but leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. How do you use your intuition in relationships? What's your biggest blind spot? I'm sending you all my love. Bye. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe, share with a friend. Love you. Bye.